Good evening from the auditorium of the Matthew J. Kuss Middle School. I'm Herald News editorial page editor Aaron Frechette, and I'll be moderating this first of two debates between the two candidates vying for the Fall River Mayor seat in the November 5th election. And here are the rules that the candidates have agreed to. This 90-minute debate will begin with a 3-minute opening statement from each candidate. After that, in the interest of time, I will pose some quick yes or no or one-word answer questions to each candidate, followed by some more substantive questions. After that, news editor Will Richmond will pose some of our readers' questions to the candidates, and I'll take it from there with the last set of questions. We'll end tonight's debate with 3-minute closing statements. Now, in the interest of time, we've asked the candidates to limit their responses to 2 minutes, and Editor-in-Chief Lynn Sullivan in the front row will signal to the candidates at the 30-second and 15-second marks where candidates should complete their thoughts and be prepared to end when Lynn signals that time is up. We have a lot of ground to cover, so I intend to keep the candidates on point, and I won't be shy about stopping them if they deviate too far off topic. To the audience, we're glad you're here tonight, but please remember that this is not a place for cheering or booing. In addition to asking the candidates to be respectful and civil to each other, we will be strictly enforcing a respect for the candidates rule, requiring the audience to remain silent during the debate, with your phones also silenced so that the candidates, the audience, and myself can stay focused on the issues at hand. Now, you're more than welcome to submit questions and comments on the HN Now Facebook and Twitter pages, and we're also accepting election-related letters to the editor through next Tuesday. With that said, this will be your one time during the debate to support your candidate. On one side, we have incumbent Mayor Will FLANAGAN. Thank you. And on my other side, his challenger, Joe Carvalho. Thank you very much for joining us today, gentlemen. We held a coin toss to determine who will go first with their opening statement, and Mayor FLANAGAN will offer his opening remarks first.
Thank you, Aaron, and let me begin by saying it's an honor for me to be here this evening. And I want to start off by thanking the Fall River Herald News and Fall River Government Television for broadcasting and sponsoring tonight's forum. And serving as your mayor, there's no other job that I'd rather be doing. I care about the people of this community, and I care about improving the quality of life for all of our citizens throughout the city of Fall River. And last Friday, I had an opportunity to speak to one of my old classmates, Jason Mello. Him and I were attending an event for the Diamond Hall of Fame. And Jason was being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year. And he and I were speaking before the program. And he said, Mayor, isn't it interesting that you and I, although we went to a vocational school, we both decided to follow careers in public service. Now, Jason went on to be a priest, and he's Father Mello, and I went on to be the mayor of the city of Fall River. And in speaking with Father Mello, I said, you know, even though we chose different career paths, our responsibilities are quite similar. It's our responsibility to help people. And as mayor, if you were to ask me for a job description, that's what I would say. It's the responsibility of a mayor to help people, especially the people of his community. And that's what you do on a daily basis. You help improve the economy. You help people get their feet back on the ground and food back on their table. You help a child with their schools and getting them to improve their schoolwork. You help improve a public safety system. You help improve an infrastructure system. And that's what our administration has been doing over the last 3.5 years, improving the quality of life for the people of Fall River. And driving down to this auditorium this evening gave me a moment of reflection. I remember standing here back in 2009, and it was a different city at that point. We were a city that was on the verge of a state takeover because of multi-million-dollar deficits in many of our accounts. We were a city that was on the verge of having its school department taken over because of failing schools and underperformance. And we were a city that had major cuts to both its police, fire, and Department of Public Works. 3.5 years, we changed our fortune, and there's still a lot more work to do. So I want to say thank you to tonight's sponsors. I look forward to tonight's debate because it's important that people are here, and it's important that you stay involved in your government. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Flanagan. Again, audience, I'd ask you to hold your applause until after the debate is done this evening. Your opening remarks, Mr. Cavallo.
Thank you. I'm Joe Cavallo. I'm a candidate for mayor of Fall River. I want to thank the Herald News for sponsoring this debate. I want to thank the Fall River Public School System for affording us such a wonderful venue. I'm running because I'm a taxpayer, a homeowner, and a resident of Fall River, and I think we can do a lot better than what we've done over the last nearly 4 years. I look at Fall River today and I see uncontrolled spending. I see a city that's going deeper and deeper into debt, and I see no attempt to stop or even control that spending. Rather than streamlining government, demanding accountability, and doing everything possible to hold our tax rate and fee structure down, what are we doing in Fall River today? We're rebonding our debt so we can kick it down the road. Kind of like Washington raising the debt limit to get some money for today. Well, we may not be able to stop the politicians in Washington from mortgaging the country to China, but we can stop the tax and spend mentality in Fall River. We can do better. We can have a no-frills budget, and we can eliminate the consultants and the patronage positions. We can have a government that is not mortgaging our future and our grandchildren's future. We are compelled to do a better job. Otherwise, the outcome for our city is deplorable. Thank you.
And with opening statements out of the way, let's get right down to business. The mayor also serves as chairman of the Fall River School Committee under our charter, making educational issues of particular importance in this race. And with a simple yes or no, please tell me where you stand. We'll begin this one with Mr. Carvalho. Mr. Carvalho, do you support the creation of the Fall River Innovation Charter School? Yes or no, please?
Yes.
Mayor, the Fall River Innovation Charter School, do you support it or not?
I do support it.
Second question, we'll start with the mayor. Do you support the creation of the Argosy Collegiate Charter School?
I do.
And Mr. Carvalho, do you support the creation of the Argosy Charter School? A recent push has been made to modify the agreement governing the Diamond Regional Vocational Technical High School, including the method of selecting the school's Fall River representatives on the school committee. Do you believe these positions should be elected, similar to the other towns represented in Diamond, or appointed by the mayor, as they are now? And we'll allow a little more debate on this if you'd like, up to 2 minutes. Mr. Carvalho, your thoughts?
I'd like to see them elected, actually. I think that there's been too much political influence on the school board at Diamond. We've seen people ousted 5 minutes before a school committee meeting because they were deemed not to be voting the way the mayor wanted them to vote. I think that's an outrageous mistake to have happen, and it would not happen under any administration that I would oversee. So I'm not in favor of having the mayor continue to appoint people to that school committee. It should be an elected position, as it is in the towns that also are on that school committee. Thank you.
Mr. Carvalho, your thoughts, Mayor?
I am not opposed to having the members of the Diamond School Board elected as they are in the surrounding towns, such as Westport, Somerset, or Swansea. Currently, under the charter, it's the mayor who appoints the 3 members that serve the city of Fall River. And since they are mayoral appointments, you are responsible for the actions of those voting members. And their vote has a direct correlation to the mayor's office. So as members of those boards vote, it's important to have an open line, a dialogue with those members, but also to make sure that they're voting consistently with your policies or your vision. Now, if the board were to become an elected board, then that member is no longer directly appointed by the mayor. He's appointed by you, the citizen, and would have to answer directly to you for which decision he or she would take on a specific vote or a specific policy. So currently, the mayor appoints those 3 members. However, I am not opposed to seeing those members become elected officials of our community.
Okay. Do you care for a rebuttal, Mr. Cavallo, or would you like to move on?
Well, I would again point to the mayor's past policy, removed the chair of the Diamond School Committee, someone who was a Diamond grad himself, had been in that position for many years. There's even a whisper campaign that the mayor is looking to oust the current superintendent there for reasons that are unknown, given that they've had the highest graduation rate in the history of the school, that the incidence of students going on to 2- and 4-year schools is the highest it's ever been. Letters to the editor from current students and former students praising the work of the current superintendent. So I'm not sure where that emanates from. Can't see any valid reason for removing the superintendent of Diamond at this point.
Mayor, your rebuttal?
Thank you. First, I want to be very clear. I did not remove the chair of the Diamond School Committee. He was not reappointed. And he was not reappointed after a discussion that he and I had together, and he understood the reasons why he was not reappointed. However, that individual and I have a positive working relationship today, as he is the chair of the Fall River Industrial Park Association. And secondly, I, unlike you, Mr. Cavallo, do not subscribe to whisper campaigns. So although you claim to be a whisper campaign, that there is going to be a removal of a superintendent, that's not something we should be promoting unless you want to identify those individuals or your sources for such a whisper campaign. Then it's not very good policy or governance to put that out into a crowd of people that's now being broadcasted on television or going to be written about in the newspaper. So I find that very irresponsible of you to promote a whisper campaign or rumor or innuendo in a crowded auditorium this evening.
So is there any truth to that? Would you like to settle the matter?
Sure, I would love to, and thank you for the opportunity. I met with the 3 members of the Diamond School Board regarding the reappointment of the superintendent, Monte Monteleone. And I will go on record here this evening that I think Diamond has been moving forward. We've seen that school make huge strides, especially over the last 3 years. And I do believe the superintendent has the support to be reappointed by the members of the school committee. However, we need to keep in mind that it's just not Fall River that makes this decision. This is a regional school board made up of Westport, Somerset, and Swansea. And although Mr. Cavallo likes to blame me for everything that happens within the city, there is still a lot more that has to be said from those 3 surrounding towns, and they have a say in whether or not the superintendent gets reappointed. But from everything I've seen or heard up until today, and in the school board members I speak with, there seems to be a consensus to reappoint the superintendent at Diamond.
And you support that?
I do, and it's just not our decision, Aaron. We have to also take the input of the teachers and the parents and the students, past graduates, current graduates, also the towns of Somerset, Swansea, and Westport. It's a regional decision that's just not made by one person.
Any rebuttal, Mr. Cavallo?
Well, I would only offer that the 3 towns, Westport, Somerset, and Swansea, have submitted letters of support to keep the current superintendent in her position. And some of those committees actually had talked, and also the Chamber of Commerce, the Education Committee of the Chamber of Commerce also submitted a letter of support of the current superintendent.
Continuing along on the line of superintendents, the Fall River superintendent, the current superintendent's contract expires on July 31st, 2016, but based on the language within that contract, a new agreement is expected to be reached by December 1st, 2015, which would fall within the coming mayoral term. And with that in mind, would you currently support the renewal of the superintendent's contract? And we'll start with you, Mayor.
As mayor, this is an issue that has to be negotiated with the superintendent. As the mayor, I'm also the chair of the school board, and it would be unfair for me to discuss the superintendent's contract this evening at this debate. However, let me state fact. Factually, the school system has been moving forward. We've seen level 4 schools move to a level 1 and a level 2. We've seen our graduation rate increase. We've seen our dropout rate decrease. We've seen more students being placed in advanced placement courses. Our school system is moving forward, and the superintendent is up for evaluation. She'll be being evaluated not only by myself, but my other 6 colleagues on the Fall River School Committee also. And based upon that evaluation, based upon public input, then a determination will be made on whether or not to renew the superintendent's contract. So it would be unfair for me as an elected official to discuss her contract openly and publicly on whether or not we're going to reappoint her. Those discussions are more suited for an executive session, which I am bound to keep them in.
And as for you, Mr. Cavallo, if you were mayor and chair of the school committee, where would you stand on the issue?
The issue of the superintendent of schools is a very diverse one. I would certainly take into account input from all aspects, parents, students, the school committee certainly. But I have to look at, yes, we've eliminated 2 level 4 schools, and in the meantime, on the heels of that, we have yet another level 4 school created, and one that's in the making. The Morton Middle School is on a track, and I heard the superintendent on WSAR say that she was looking for Morton Middle School to be a level 4 school by the end of this school year. She quickly realized that she may have needed to qualify that. And what she said was, I would look to have that happen so that we could get more resources and money into the Morton Middle School. That seems pretty disingenuous to me, that you would place a school at level 4 and then make it at risk to be a level 5 school. Actually, what's happened is with the closing of Henry Lord Middle School, the class sizes at all the middle schools have gone off the board. Classes 30, 31, 32, 33 kids. So that's not something that I would take lightly as mayor and as the chairman of the school committee.
Okay, thank you. Speaking of Henry Lord, what do you view as the best use of the building that formerly housed the Henry Lord Middle School, and why? And we'll start with you, Mr. Cavallo.
I think some of the measures that have been mentioned, I think I agree with School Committeeman Martins in terms of eventually making that into a middle school again. I'm looking at what it means to the residents of the South End who have middle school age children having to get up at inordinate times in the morning to be bused to the other 3 middle schools. I would look for a transition to having that middle school reopened again as Henry Lord in the not too distant future. I would certainly do everything in my power to have that happen should I become mayor.
Thank you. And Mayor.
Thank you, Aaron. I support a concept that's going to reduce the classroom size at the current elementary schools in our city's South End. When I speak to a lot of the teachers and parents, right now in our elementary school levels, we have class sizes of 30, 31, 32 students. That's unacceptable. Speak to anyone involved in education, and they'll concur with me that those classroom sizes are unacceptable classroom sizes. Looking to reopen the Henry Lord Middle School, I know the subcommittee is currently meeting. They will have a recommendation to us in November on what is the best use for that school building. Right now, the superintendent is meeting with parents and teachers to get their input on what they want to see in our city's South End. But as mayor, I support the concept of reducing the classroom sizes, especially at the elementary school levels, but also increasing the opportunity for pre-K in our community. Talk to any parent right now who has a child ages 4, 5, 6, even as small as 2.5, and they'll tell you there is a greater need for pre-K here in the city of Fall River. But since we're still on education, Aaron, I just want to go back to a statement that Mr. Cavallo made earlier. I too have spoken with the superintendent, and she has indicated to me at this time she does not have any information in front of her, nor has she reviewed any information that has indicated that Morton will be designated a Level 4 school. Once again, to put that out in the community, if you have not talked to her personally, I suggest you do, because it would be important for her to speak with you to make sure that we go over everything regarding Morton. And at this time, based upon a conversation I had with her, there's no information that Morton will become a Level 4 school. Therefore, I don't think we should be broadcasting that this evening also.
Quick rebuttal if you'd like.
It was broadcast on WSAR. I heard the superintendent myself. I'm sure that other people in the audience and in the viewing audience at home may have heard that very statement on WSAR in the news hour on the noon hour. And she quickly qualified it by saying, well, it's to get more resources and more money into the Morton Middle School. So okay. I didn't make that up. Please.
We have to move on. My colleague Will Richmond has been receiving readers' questions all week that we've asked for on a variety of topics, including education, and the largest issue that we heard from our readers about was public safety and crime. At this point, he'll pose some of those selected questions. Will?
Thank you, Aaron. Our readers are very concerned about the state of public safety in Fall River. Approximately 90% of the questions submitted did relate to crime and related issues. They wrote in regards to their concerns about the high usage of heroin, people getting mugged, and robberies within banks and convenience stores and the such. So clearly there are a number of residents who have a poor perception of the city in regards to crime. Do you agree with this perception?
Sure, man.
Far too often, perception becomes reality, and we cannot allow our community to be perceived as an unsafe community, because if that perception becomes reality, it's going to affect the image of the city of Fall River. We're going to continue to work to put police officers on the ground. Just today, I was speaking with Chief Dan Racine, and we received notice that we were in receipt of a federal grant to hire back 10 more police officers. If you've been following the news as of late, you'll know that under our administration, we organized the Southeastern Gang Task Force, where we have FBI agents in the city of Fall River, along with Massachusetts State Police and Fall River police officers investigating criminal activity and making arrests. Just 2 weeks ago, they were able to apprehend a member of an illegal street gang who was carrying a sawed-off shotgun. That individual is now sitting in jail. On November 2nd, we're going to have a drug summit in the city of Fall River, bringing the entire community together to raise awareness on the issue of drug addiction, focusing on treatment and prevention. And we got to keep on doing everything we can, Will, to keep our city safe, because people want to live in a safe community. Individuals want to locate their business in a safe community, and that's very important. But we also got to keep in mind we are making progress here. Look at the city of Fall River. To date, in our city, we have had 0 homicides for this year. Compare that to other communities. That's not happening right now, and that's happening because of the difference we're making on all fronts, on all quality of life issues here in the city of Fall River. In talking with Chief Racine, I believe the last time we've had 0 homicides in the city of Fall River dates all the way back to 1950. So it's important that we continue to crack down on issues, especially around drug distribution, but also making sure that our police officers have all the tools that they need to effectively do their jobs.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cavallo.
Well, I think the mayor's been mayor for nearly 4 years. I don't think it would take me more than a couple of weeks to call a drug summit. It's not like something happened in the last month or so that caused us to be the 44th highest heroin use city in the country. I don't know what took that long, to be honest with you, to call a drug summit. I remember Councilor Poulin's run for mayor. Some years ago, he had talked about a drug summit. I thought that would have been something that would have been implemented long before this, long before, the next political election cycle, if you will. That's something that I would have certainly done in my first or second week of office, of my administration. Again, it's like kicking the can down the road until such time as it becomes a crisis, and then that's what we have. We have an administration that governs by crisis. We've got all kinds of issues involving crime that we haven't really addressed as yet. And my administration will certainly take those on first and foremost.
Get a rebut?
Thank you. I do not govern by election cycle. Based upon Mr. Cavallo's comments as of late, I get the impression he'd rather just have me shut down government a month before an election, just as they do in Washington, D.C. But that's something we do not do. And as we don't govern by election cycle, we don't govern by crises either. We're always out there doing our best to move our city forward. It's very easy to point out a negative, Mr. Cavallo, but it takes a little more courage to point out the positive that's going on in the community. And I truly believe the more positive you do, the more positive you highlight, the more positive you get in return. It's about putting out positive energy, not negative energy. It's very easy to sit on the sidelines and root for failure. It takes a little more work to roll up your sleeves and get involved in the game to make a difference.
Next question, Will.
On the issue of drugs, this is a question that is from Lisa on Last Street. She mentions Fall River has a drug problem. It ranks among the worst heroin-addicted cities. When are we going to address this problem?
That would be something that my administration would tackle as job one. It leads to a whole host of other social problems in the city. I'm a firm believer in getting people together in the same room who all have the same goal. Let's look at what strategies have been helpful in other cities in combating the scourge that is on our city right now. Let's not have to reinvent the wheel, but I certainly wouldn't wait until the last quarter of my second administration to say that we have a drug problem in this city. Everybody in this room and everybody at home watching this knows that we've had a drug problem for some years, but it took nearly almost 4 years for a drug summit to be instituted by this mayor. So my question is, why wait? Why the wait? Why did we wait nearly 4 years before we had this drug summit constituted? That's a legitimate question. The drug problem isn't something that occurred overnight or within the last 2 or 3 weeks. It's been ongoing in this city for a long time. And the sooner that we addressed it, the sooner we would be towards a solution to that terrible social problem that we have.
Mayor?
I understand because this problem is so big, bigger than the city of Fall River, bigger than the United States of America, that people may feel that nothing is being done. To that commenter, I would indicate work is being done. Go to STAR, go to Stepping Stone. They'll tell you story after story of people that they're currently working with, people that they have worked with. Talk to those individuals who are involved with Project Purple. They'll tell you story after story of people who have been battling addiction and those who are currently in treatment or those who are in and out of treatment. This issue is something, as a mayor, I believe we have to come together as a community on. And if you go back to my State of the City address last winter, it's an issue that I talked about in the State of the City address. And it's going to take a community to raise awareness on this particular issue. And if I stood on this stage this evening and told you that one mayoral summit is going to solve the drug problem in our community, then I would be lying to you. The purpose of this summit is to raise awareness. It's to bring people together. It's to continue a dialogue focused on treatment and prevention and enforcement. That's its intention. That's its purpose, is to bring people together and to raise an awareness on an issue. And the issue of drug addiction doesn't discriminate. It cuts across all socioeconomic backgrounds, and no matter if you live in the north end or the south end, people are battling drugs. And no matter if you live in the city of Fall River or Topeka, Kansas, this drug issue is real, and it's affecting communities, and it's ruining lives.
Thank you. Will?
This is a question from Aprecido, and I apologize if I'm mispronouncing the name, but my question is, will a hardworking family or any member of their family be able to walk our streets without the fear of being jumped and robbed? You know as well as I do, our streets are being taken over. Do you agree with that statement? And if so, what will you do to improve the situation?
Your turn, Mayor.
I don't agree our streets are being taken over. And as mayor, I will do everything within my power to ensure that our streets are not being taken over. We're going to continue to use every law enforcement tool that is necessary to improve public safety within our community, whether it's working with our DA, Sam Sutter, to implement a dangerousness hearing, whether it's working with our Sheriff, Tom Hodson, to make sure to reduce the recidivism rate here in Bristol County, whether it's working with Police Chief Dan Racine to make sure that he has a staffing level that's adequate to properly cover our city. We're going to do everything we can to improve public safety here in the city of Fall River. And we've been working very hard on this issue. We've been able to establish the Southeastern Gang Task Force using federal, state, and local resources. We've been able to raise awareness on the issue of drug addiction and have it as an issue that's being discussed here in our community. We're working with Boys and Girls Club and the YMCA and CD Recreation to make sure that our children have a safe place to go and they have positive role models in their life. And that's very important. It's very important that as a society, as a community, that we're being engaged with our children. A lot of our children don't have a positive influence in their life. I see somebody here like Jerry Souza, who dedicates his life to making sure he's taking children off the street and making sure they learn a sport like boxing. For many of our youth, that may be something that saved them. Or working with the folks down at Fall River Falcons football, taking our youth off the street, making sure that they're playing football in a safe environment. As mayor, I am a huge proponent of youth sports. And I think the more we engage our youth, the more we have a positive influence in our youth's lives, the better of a community we're going to be. And it's about generational responsibility, making this community better for the next generation.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. Cavallo.
Well, as a former counselor and social worker with the Department of Youth Services, the Department of Social Services, New Bedford Child and Family Services, I'm acutely aware of some of the social issues that are plaguing our city. And to the point of people not being, feeling safe on the sidewalks, to that person's question, I've spoken to a lot of elderly people who don't feel comfortable, even during the daylight hours, to travel to the local convenience store. I think we have to make better use of the facilities that we have, the police force. They're doing an admirable job. But I think we need to meet with other professionals in the field and see that we're using our resources and every state-of-the-art technology that we can have at our disposal. People who don't feel safe in their own community, that's a plague, and perception is reality to that extent. So we need to take every measure possible to ensure that our city streets are safe and that people do have the freedom to walk freely without fear of being attacked. We've got, again, the 44th or 48th highest crime rate of any city in the United States, out of the 100 worst. So we need to do something about that. We need to address that issue and not kick it down the road for some other entity to try to handle. Those are the issues that we really have to address, and we need to do them quickly. Thank you.
Any other questions, Will?
One shift into education. This is from Darrell on Frost Street. What would you do as the chair of the school committee to address the issue of chronic absenteeism amongst the 10% of the most chronically absent from teaching duty?
Mr. Cavallo, please.
Thank you. Well, number one, I guess we've got another task force. I don't know why it took so long again. Where is the accountability in the public schools in Fall River for some ongoing accounting of who's absent and when? That needs to be addressed nipped in the bud, as the old expression goes. You don't wait until you've had multiple absences, kids who are missing giant chunks of the school year from their education. That would be addressed ongoingly in my administration. There would be no waiting until we get some mountainous amount of absences from school children and then call another task force. I've been on several of those task forces, some of which this mayor appointed me to. One of them met twice and hasn't met since, back in 2011. I don't know what happens to these task forces. I know I see the photo ops in the paper, and I see the splash, and then I don't see anything after that. One example is the CPA, Community Preservation Act. We should have had those people appointed months ago, according to the law, by the way. Mayor's an attorney. I don't know. It's very questionable how we move on some of the issues that face this city. They're either put to the side or there's a splash, and then there isn't any follow-up. Everybody knows show and tell. It's a lot of show, not much tell.
And, it's a serious allegation. Mayor, would you like to respond?
Sure, thank you. The Community Preservation Committee has been established. Their first meeting will be, I believe, October 28th. It's a public meeting, and those of you who are interested in it, I strongly encourage you to attend. And by law, I believe the first meeting had to take place by the end of October. So we did everything statutorily we were required to do. And there was a lot of work that went into it. You had several boards that needed to nominate appointees. You had legislation that had to be drafted. You needed a city council vote to take place. And we were able to take something that was voted on during the last election cycle and get it implemented less than a year later. So that is moving forward, and I strongly encourage those of you who are interested in it to follow it and be engaged and to have your voices heard in it. The issue regarding student absenteeism, we're currently working on the issue, and we have been working on the issue, but it's about raising awareness on issues too, Mr. Cavallo. For 1 second, please do not believe that this city, this school department, its educators, its teachers, its parents haven't been doing anything for the last 3.5 years to get children to school. What we're saying is we have to do more. We have to do more as a community to get our children engaged. We have to do more to make sure that our children are attending school, that they're showing up prepared and they're ready to learn the lesson of the day. Because if they are not, the odds of them graduating from high school and the odds of them having a successful quality of life greatly decrease. So that's why it's important to get people together. What harm is it to get members of the Boys and Girls Club or the YMCA or CD Rec or teachers or parents or Rebecca Cusick from the Former Teachers Union together to talk about ways how we can improve student attendance? And in some cases, we've had to use the judicial system to get involved for parents who have been neglectful in sending their child to school. And I get it. There's a lot going on in a household that may distract a parent from getting their child to school on time. But what I'm saying is, as a government, we have to raise awareness on the issue and then work together to shepherd any resource we can into that home to make sure that that boy or girl is going to school. Because in order to improve our community, there really isn't something that's more important than making sure that our children receive a quality education.
Thank you, Mayor. And this outstanding question that Mr. Cavallo brought up about the task forces, and his question was, what happens to the task forces? Would you care to respond to that?
I would love to. The task force on the SAFER grant, they're currently still meeting. In fact, Sean Kadim is heading up that task force, and he meets regularly with community members, corresponds with them via email, and is making sure that as the SAFER grant expires, that we have a plan in place to making sure that we have adequate fire protection in our community. The task force on the solid waste issue, It's no secret that our landfill will be closing probably within the next 2 years. There have been several meetings on that particular issue. Also, that is slowed a little bit because there's emergent technologies right now currently developing in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for waste to energy. So it's important that we explore those technologies, and sometimes these issues take time. One of the task force that I appointed Mr. Cavallo to was the reuse of the Weavers Cove site. That was headed up by City Councilor Eric Poulin. That council met. It had several meetings, and Mr. Poulin actually put together a binder on the reuse of the on the reuse of the Weavers Cove land. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the kicker. Mr. Cavallo criticized me for not having a press conference on the reuse of the Weavers Cove land. So it's kind of like I'm stuck if I do, I'm stuck if I don't, and he points the finger whether I do or whether I don't. So condemned if I have a press conference, condemned if I don't have a press conference. But these task force are meeting, they're getting work done, and they're good guidance tools for me as the mayor in my decision making. So ultimately, everything rises or falls on the mayor's desk. And that's a responsibility that I took on when I raised my right hand and was sworn into office. So these tools, these meetings, these task force help me in my decision-making on which way we should go as a community. So they are meeting, they have met, and I do find them useful in our decision-making as a community.
Thank you. Any rebuttal?
Well, to the Weavers Cove reuse task force, at the very first meeting the mayor attended and said that at the completion of our work, he would have a press conference within 30 days of our submission of that report. And we never had that press release from the mayor's office. And I can only speculate as to why that was. I know that of the 9 or 11 results of that task force, one at the bottom was the layover station for the South Coast Rail at Weavers Cove, and just above that, in second to last position, was a casino. We took all of the input from citizens, all the input from the board members, from the task force members, and that's what we came up with. So we just, I kind of decided that it was because the casino didn't come out number one for the mayor, that he didn't have the press conference. And to the landfill task force, of which you're the chairman, the first meeting was in October of 2012. A year ago, 1 year ago this month, was when the mayor named a task force to look into the landfill issues of the landfill closing. And now we have another meeting. So, it took a year? That's a long time to go with a pressing issue that may increase the city's tab by some $5 million. I wouldn't wait that long. No way.
Address that if you'd like, or we can move on. It's up to you.
I'll address it briefly. A year in government on an issue that's still ongoing. This issue of reuse of the landfill is not going to be solved overnight, nor would it be in the best interest of the city for any elected official to solve this interest overnight either. These issues take time. And they take time because you want to make sure that on an issue that's so important as this one, the closing of the landfill, you explore every possibility, read every report, and sit down with everybody who you need to sit down with in order to make an informed judgment on what to do. And it's just not the mayor's office that's going to decide this issue. It's going to be an issue that's decided with input from the city council, input from the public, and it's an ongoing issue, one that has not been resolved as of yet.
Thank you. Very briefly.
If you call a task force of which you're the chairperson, and you're looking at an issue so important as the landfill, and the people that you've appointed are the ones that you're looking for to get the information from, to get the ideas about, and you don't call another meeting for a year, what is that? That's irresponsible in my mind. I can't get my head around that. I don't know why it took a year for a landfill task force to meet again. Really.
Okay. We need to move
Fathom
on.
I can't fathom it. Sorry.
And for our next question, I'll turn it again over to Will Richmond.
The last of the reader-submitted questions. The expansion of Matuke is a great example of the willingness of local employers to stay in the city. What will you do or continue to do to attract others to come here and create jobs at the skill levels of the unemployed people of Fall River in the next 12 months?
And Mayor, you can start with that one, please.
As mayor, you're an advocate for your city. And as an advocate, you have to continue to promote the positives of your community, as well as working on what needs to be done to improve your community also. Through issues such as zoning, you work to make your community more attractive to the relocation of business. You work on your finances, and I'm proud to say with the work of our financial team, we were able to see a 2-grade increase in our bond rating, something that has not happened in over 10 years in the city of Fall River. You work on issues such as tax increment financing to put incentives out there for communities looking to locate their business here in the city of Fall River. We've been successful in getting businesses to locate here. Take the A.J. Wright building. That building was vacated under our administration. Also under our administration, we were able to bring a company from Rhode Island into the city of Fall River to occupy and now completely fill a once vacated building. You also have to make sure your finances are stable, and we've been able to do that here in the city. For the first time in a long time, we've been able to reconcile our cash deposits. We've been able to finish outdated audits. We've been able to file our statements on time with the Department of Revenue and have our tax certified on time, as well as our free cash too. So there's many components that go into attracting businesses to our community. But one of the most important is improving your school system, and also making sure that your current employees are getting the workforce training that is needed to have the skills that current employers are looking for. So it's a number of components, Will, but one of the most important component is education.
Mr. Cavallo.
Well, as mayor, I would look to have every company that gets a 10-year TIF that saves them millions of dollars over the life of that TIF employ Fall River residents in whatever projects are going on at that business. For instance, when I appeared at Matuke, I wasn't criticizing Mr. Matuke. I did criticize the contractors, and the contractor said they needed a concrete company. They said that they called one Fall River concrete company and never received a call back. Really, never received a call back. In this economy, with someone calling saying that they had concrete work for Fall River workers and they didn't get a call back. And what about the other 5 concrete businesses in Fall River? Never got a call. That would never happen under my administration. There would be outreach, there would be a rider to TIFs that you need to look at Fall River workers first and foremost. Rhode Island Novelties, do you know how many people from Fall River are working at Rhode Island Novelties, Mr. Mayor? Guess not. Go to the parking lot at Rhode Island Novelties and tell me how many Massachusetts cars you see in the parking lot. They're almost all Rhode Island cars. That's not helping Fall River workers at all.
I do, Aaron. Mr. Cavallo, once again, I encourage you to speak with the CEO of Rhode Island Novelties. I have, you haven't. I encourage you to pick up the phone or make an appointment to see Mr. Matuke over at Matuke Fine Linens. I have, you haven't. It's easy for you to stay on here on stage and to point fingers and to throw stones. It's another thing to actually to equip yourself with factual information. You may be entitled to your own opinion, Mr. Cavallo, but you're not entitled to your own facts. And if you speak with Rhode Island Novelties, or if you speak with Clearview, or you speak with Blount Fine Foods, or you speak with Matuke, they'll tell you how many Fall River employees are actually working at their facility. But you also have to see the bigger picture and go a step forward too. If that building at A.J. Wright were to sit vacant, it would be less tax dollars coming into the city of Fall River. By filling up that building, we were able to expand our tax base and keep it consistent. Also, Rhode Novelties is looking to further expand here in the city of Fall River. So that's important. But, Mr. Cavallo, I really do not have any ill will towards you. And with that said, I do not think you understand how damaging it was to the city of Fall River for you to stay on the curbside of Mattouk and to criticize him and condemn him for not hiring a Fall River concrete worker, to which he said he had called and never received a phone call back. If you do not think that other companies looking to locate in Fall River or companies who are already here didn't get a chilling effect to see a mayoral candidate standing on a curb criticizing a company that's investing multi-millions of dollars within our city, hiring city workers, and they could have chosen to expand anywhere they wanted to, but they chose to expand here in the city of Fall River. That was irresponsible for you to do that, and I hope someday you understand the damage that was done to our city by you holding that press conference.
Are you concerned about potential damage that might have been done?
No, because my criticism wasn't of Mr. Mattouk. I didn't say that I criticized Mr. Mattouk. I criticized the contractor who Mr. Mattouk had hired that wasn't hiring Fall River people for jobs that were available at the expansion of that business. I applaud Mr. Mattouk for hiring, you know, this expansion is going to hire 10 more people from Fall River. Great. But in the meantime, when there's construction jobs or projects like that, I want to see Fall River workers working at those projects and not people from Texas, sheetrock workers from Texas, or carpenters from Maine, when we have the same people going without work here in our city. They should have the priority. Rhode Island Novelty is going to hire in this expansion more Fall River workers? Did you make that a condition of their expansion? I don't see a problem with that, to be honest with you. With the unemployment we've had, rate that we've had stagnant since your administration took over of 12.8, 12.7, 12.9%, that's been static. That's been the same all these 4 years nearly. We need to impact on that. And the way to impact on that is to have businesses that are here and have projects going on like that hire Fall River workers. There's too many of them that are not working, and we need to put them to work. They should have every opportunity. At every project that goes into the ground in this city, Fall River workers should be looked at first and foremost and given that opportunity. In the bidding process.
And I do want to stay along these lines. Jobs and economic development is a very crucial issue to the city. Obviously, brings up some tension, some heated emotions. So along those lines, what role will you play in the development of the South Coast Life Sciences and Technology Park if elected, Mr. Cavallo?
Well, the mayor would have had a casino there, I believe. And he criticized me for keeping Meditech out of the area, when in fact his move to have a casino at the biopark, and I remember the quote, it's only 8 to 12 jobs, kick it to the curb. So what happened was, it was ruled down in court. The city, through the redevelopment authority, appealed that case twice. Hired Max Stern. I was told he gets $4.50 an hour, Boston attorney, and they lost twice on appeal of putting a casino where the biopark should be. And the next election cycle, the mayor's re-election material, he was quoted as saying, I take responsibility for brokering a partnership with UMass Dartmouth for the creation of the biopark and 8,000 jobs. So when he's kicking it to the curb, it's 8 to 12 jobs. When he wants to take credit for it, it's 8,000 jobs.
The question, though, is what role will you play in the development?
I would do everything in my power as mayor to see that entity is put forward. We'd spare no expense whatever in attracting businesses and science firms to that entity. That's what I would do. It would be one of our top priorities.
And Mayor, what role will you play in the development of the South Coast Life Sciences and Technology Park? And if you care to respond to any of the other comments, please feel free.
Work's already being done. The University of Massachusetts is opening its doors by the end of this year on its Life Science and Technology building, working with the Life Science and Technology Council, working with the University of Massachusetts, working with the Secretary of the Economy, Greg Bielecki, working with people like Paul Vigent from the University of Massachusetts, Dartmouth. We're currently recruiting companies to locate within our Life Science and Technology Park. There's numerous job fairs and trade shows that representatives from the city of Fall River attend, along with representatives of the South Coast Partnership, to actually have companies locate here in our city. Several companies have already expressed an interest in locating in the Life Science and Technology Park, and it's our hope through advocacy that we can get these companies to locate here. Now, Mr. Cavallo raises some serious accusations. At no time have I ever said, let's kick the Life Science and Technology Park to the curb. I remember vividly back in 2010 and 2011, my office working very tenaciously to have both a casino and a life science technology park within our city. And I did so not for any special interest. I did so to create the maximum number of jobs for our community as we possibly could. Now, we had a bill that went all the way to the governor's desk, and it was not signed by the governor. There was a disagreement between the governor and the Speaker of the House and the Senate President on what language should be in that bill. That disagreement was not around the Fall River specific language. It was regarding how many racinos the Commonwealth would have at that time. So Mr. Cavallo, through his actions, has expressed opposition to casino gaming. I support it if done responsibly, but most importantly, I support creating the maximum number of jobs as I can for our city.
And Mayor, my follow-up question is, what do you believe is the best use of land in that park that's not required to be used for life sciences?
It varies, Aaron. There's no, the main goal of the land at this time is to develop it for life science, biomedicine, green energy. We were also pursuing Amazon to locate here in Fall River, Massachusetts. Amazon narrowed its Massachusetts selection down to 2 cities. Fall River was one of them. That would have built a distribution center here in our community that would have created upwards of 1,000 jobs. Now, those jobs are focused mainly on distribution. However, that's an opportunity to create a mass amount of jobs for our community. So we were able to take a swing at bringing Amazon here, and I'm not shameful of doing so. I truly believe that you have to swing the bat in order to hit the ball. And if you don't swing the bat, you got to strike out. So we'll continue to pursue every opportunity we can and locate any company we can that fits the geographical makeup of that 300-acre parcel.
Thank you. And Mr. Cavallo, same question to you. What do you believe is the best use of the land in the biopark that's not dedicated to life sciences?
Well, I'm for looking at all the possibilities there in terms of other entities coming in, other technologies, anything that can be useful and create jobs for Fall River residents. I'm all for attracting them to that park. I think that's the best efforts to go forward. I wouldn't certainly exclude many, but it certainly would need to have Fall River residents employed.
Okay, my next question will go to the mayor. A pair of large South End retailers closed or moved recently, creating a large vacancy in that section of the city and a lot of the retail outlets in the South End. What role should the city play in keeping the South End as a retail hub?
A very active role, because that's the current makeup of that particular section of the city along William Canning Boulevard and Marion Bishop Boulevard. Currently, the Shores closed its doors in our city's South End. And even though its doors are closed, they're actively still paying their rent money there, so they're having a foothold in the city's south end. The Harbor Mall eventually will be closing its doors. With the Walmart now moving over to Eastern Avenue, the Kmart lease expiring probably within the next 2 years, we're going to see a slowdown of retail or commercial at the Harbor Mall. I've sat down with the owners of the Harbor Mall, and they want the city's input in looking to develop that particular piece of property. Now, they're also looking to sell it at an estimated price tag of anywhere between $7 million to $13 million. So there's a hefty price tag associated with that parcel of land. There have been several developers who have expressed an interest in developing that piece of land. Most of that interest has been for commercial entities. So we have to continue to work with the private sector to have that land developed, keeping in mind that the land is owned by the private sector. So in this particular instance or circumstance, the city acts as a facilitator in getting that land developed. So working with the various economic agencies in our community, we have a direct line of contact with both the owners of the Shores parcel as well as the parcel that many of us know as Walmart Kmart to get that land developed so it does not sit vacant for too much longer.
Thank you. And Mr. Cavallo, your thoughts on keeping the South End as a retail hub and the city's role in that?
Well, I would certainly reach out to the area Chamber of Commerce and see what kind of ideas they could put forward to see what we could do with those parcels. If I'm not mistaken, the Walmart facility has some restrictions on it being a retail outlet again. So we would need to look at other opportunities, other possibilities. But I would certainly get together with business leaders in the community and also put out a call. I would certainly meet with the owner of the property and see what we could come up with that could work for all the entities involved. But specifically the Chamber of Commerce. I really look to them as the leaders of commerce in this area and would welcome whatever ideas they would have to move the city forward and having the South End be a viable business entity once again.
Thank you.
Welcome.
And moving along to other development in the city, other possibilities at least. If South Coast Rail continues its forward trajectory, how do you propose? How do you feel? What do you feel? Excuse me. Should take place around those proposed rail stops in terms of economic development activity? And we'll start with you, Mr. Cavallo.
Well, one of the things we would like to see is to not have the layover station at Weaver's Cove. That's 73 acres of waterfront property. To have the state take 20 acres by eminent domain would not really be that appealing to prospective developers who might want to make a purchase bid from Hess LNG. If, in fact, and I know that the environmental impact statement has been in play now, so I would think that we might want to take a look at if, in fact, there isn't another option, that we could have the Weaver's Cove site also be a depot, a terminal, if you will, for people to get off there and have some amenities around for them to partake of. As the president of the Coalition for Responsible Siting of LNG Facilities, the board still maintains that the end of the line under the Braga Bridge would be the preferred location for the layover station. We've talked and met as a board with Secretary Davey and with Project Manager Fox about that possibility. And the Secretary assured my board that we could have subsequent meetings once the environmental impact statement is completed and worked on, that we could take a look at some other options. So we're definitely going to take the Secretary up on that offer.
Thank you, Mr. Cavallo. Mayor, your thoughts on potential development along the rail stations?
Currently, our administration is working to develop our city's waterfront, specifically along Route 79, incorporating the proposed rail line for South Coast Rail. Right now, you see a lot of the fruits of our labor currently taking place. You see the removal of the spaghetti ramps of Route 79. That's a mega construction project, one of the largest construction projects taking place right now in Massachusetts. Also, we're meeting with the Massachusetts Department of Transportation as well as the North End Neighborhood Association, as well as our state delegation, to further move forward the decompression of the northern portion of Route 79. So now you have a fully at-grade boulevard from the northern portion of our waterfront along to the southern portion of our waterfront, of which the rail line is proposed to go through. So now you have buildable acreage, and along those train stops, you have the opportunity to build shops and boutiques and restaurants and other commercial activity to help generate a forward movement in our economy. So those discussions are already taking place. I expect the governor, as he winds down his term in office, to continue to move the ball forward on South Coast Rail. But I pledge to you that as your mayor, as we move into the gubernatorial election next year for 2014, that this is one of the questions that we ask our candidates for governor. Do you support South Coast Rail, and why or why not? And then make an informed decision as a community which candidate for governor we're going to support, because the city of Fall River will be very important in the election of the next governor as well as the next lieutenant governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Another question related to economic development following the model of the Waterfront Development and Arts Overlay District. Are there any other zoning districts that you would propose in your next term?
One of the zoning districts that we're looking at right now, and it's still under review and is still in its infancy stages, is what's called foreign trade zones. When I speak to companies like Matuk, Mr. Cavallo, they explain to me that it's cheaper right now to actually have a product made overseas and shipped into Fall River than to actually have the material shipped into Fall River and made here. So what we're looking to do is to explore what's called foreign trade zones, establishing zones in our city that allow for companies, especially those in manufacturing, to import their goods at a cheaper price. Because if they're able to import their goods at a cheaper price, they're able to make more an investment in the community, and that would hopefully deter them to relocating their companies to foreign soil. So I do believe zoning is a good implementation when done correctly to help move the economy forward.
Mr. Cavallo, you have expertise in land use issues following that model. Is there any zoning districts that you would propose creating as an economic development means?
No, I would speak, though, to the point that there's some niche manufacturing coming back to the United States. What's happened is it's costing local companies or American businesses more cost in waiting for the shipments to come from overseas, the goods to come from overseas to the United States. So there are some niche manufacturing companies that are coming back, not on the scale that we've ever seen before, or that we've seen before in Fall River when we had 200 cotton textile mills operating. But Pat Todd, who was a former member of the Mill Owners Association, has done an admirable job in creating some space for small manufacturing firms. We still have numerous people in the community, sewing machine operators, people who are skilled in those kinds of trades. This would afford them the opportunity to gain work again at a trade and at a expertise that they have right now. So I would pursue those kinds of opportunities.
Okay, next question. Is the strong mayor, weak council charter good for Fall River, or would you advocate a change of that? Mr. Cavallo.
I wouldn't advocate a change in that particular charter. I would, however, as mayor, create a more non-adversarial relationship with the city council. I wouldn't wait until the day before there to vote on a budget to submit some new bills, I wouldn't give them reams of reports the day that they're supposed to be voting on something. That's not the way I would operate. They would have full disclosure, a truly transparent administration from day one. Everyone in the city council would know exactly what the administration is doing, what it's planning, so that they can make the best educated decisions on how to move forward on whatever the administration is putting forward. Those kinds of roadblocks, really, to moving our city forward has what's been in the way of advancing some of the notions that we have about improving our city. It does no good to keep city councilors in the dark, and I've watched a number and attended a number of city council meetings where that thought is echoed over and over again. Why the 11th hour do we get the information that we needed weeks or months ago to make an informed decision and something to move the city forward? So that would be the hallmark of my administration: transparency and full disclosure with all the entities that have to do with the city government.
Mayor Flanagan, your thoughts on the strong mayor, weak council form of government. Is it good for Fall River? Would you support a change?
I think it is, but I'm sure the city council would disagree with me. But in all seriousness, it doesn't make a difference to me, Aaron, whether it's a Plan A charter, a Plan B charter, a Plan C charter, whether you have a strong mayor, weak council, a strong council, weak mayor. At the end of the day, I'm here to serve the city of Fall River, no matter what my role, no matter what my responsibility, no matter what my job title. My mission, my goal is to make this city better than when I was sworn into office. So I know Councilor Mayoral is working very hard to go over a charter review, and at the end of the day, it's ultimately up to the citizens of our community. As mayor, I work for you. You are my boss. You have the opportunity every 2 years to elect a mayor and a city council and a school committee, and at the end of the day, we're responsible to you. You decide who you want your elected officials to be. And I take issue with Mr. Cavallo's statement on the lack of transparency with the members of the City Council. In fact, on my ride over here, I was communicating with City Council President Linda Pereira. I speak to Councilor Eric Poulin on numerous occasions. I speak to Pat Casey and Danny Rigo and Ray Mitchell and Joe Camara. You name it, the members of the council, I talk to them. They have my cell phone number. They're able to have my email address. They call me at all hours of the day on all various issues, some personal, some professional, sometimes just to call and say hello. Sometimes communication is not as quick as people sometimes want it to be, but that's not done intentional. Sometimes something new happens, or you have a new idea, or you see something that maybe you didn't see the first time before when you submitted something. So the council as a body also has the opportunity to continue its meetings if it needs more information, but we have to work together.
I think we have one last question here. Landfill, pending landfill closure is certainly a big issue. How do you propose replacing the revenue from the landfill closure, first of all? And second of all, how do you propose shipping waste out of the city after the landfill closes, Mayor?
It's an issue that's under review, and it's a very complex issue. The landfill's closing, and it's reaching the end life of its expectancy as well as its capacity. And you have numerous options made available to you on how you want to have your solid waste removed. I want to be very clear up front. I do not support a pay-as-you-throw. I cannot see us as a government adding an additional fee to the taxpayers, establishing them to get rid of their trash. So that's a concept I do not support and will not support. But there's other options that are made available. And one of them is waste to energy. There's several companies right now that have been in contact with the city of Fall River who feel that they are very optimistic about establishing a waste to energy facility within this region. I'm meeting with one company tomorrow in Boston who's looking to establish such a facility. Now, I want to be clear and upfront, I do not support this facility being established in our city. I cannot view or locate any area in our city that we would be able to locate a trash to energy facility. So that facility, more likely than not, will have to be built outside of the city borders, and then we would then supply our waste to it. Right now, it's a possibility that we may be able to do it at a cost similar, or actually less, than what we're actually being assessed with for our current waste disposal. But going back to my earlier statement, as you can tell, these are complex issues, and sometimes these issues are not decided in a 90-minute forum. They're certainly not decided in a 30-second soundbite on the radio or a 2 or 3 paragraph report in the newspaper. Sometimes these issues take a year or two to straighten out because they're important issues, and you want to make sure you cross every T and dot every I.
Mr. Cavallo.
Oh, once again, we have the landfill task force, which the mayor is the chair of, and to his point before, where he appointed that task force to gather information, to gather ideas, to see what the options were, and yet he named the task force in October of 2012. It's finally going to get another meeting, and before he even hears from the people in the task force, he's excluding out of hand the pay-as-you-throw. So I wonder about that. I wonder about getting input from the task force and yet already having made a decision on something that the task force may present as a possibility. $5 million in the hole we're going to be in terms of not having the landfill available to us anymore. The other piece of that is interstate waste technologies, an unproven and untested technology that was, when they went to Taunton and tried to pitch it there, we're only interested in getting renewable tax energy credits from the state, because it takes more energy to burn the stuff that they're ever going to create on the other end. They opened a plant in Italy in 1995, I believe, and it got decommissioned in 1996. They don't seem to have any other viable projects anywhere in the world. And by the way, if it was so cutting edge, New York, Chicago, St. Louis, Los Angeles, with more trash than any of us could ever imagine, haven't looked at trash to energy. So you have to ask yourself that question: why haven't they, with more trash than Fall River will ever see, why haven't they used that technology? So
we're clear on what you don't like. What are your thoughts on replacing that lost revenue and shipping the waste out of the city? Do you have any
well, there's transfer stations. There's the pay-as-you-throw. I mean, what's the plan for replacing $5 million? What's the plan? Increase the taxes again to 2.5 levels every year? That's what we see. Maybe some fees. I don't know what the plan is, but I know that we're going to be $5 million in the hole, and somebody better get a damn grip on it sooner rather than later.
Okay. I'm going to sneak in one last question, just a quick yes or no, so we can get you on the record about it. Do you support the hiring of a full-time tourism director, Mayor?
Not at this time, no.
Mr. Cavallo?
Yes, I do.
Okay. We're going to now then turn it over to the candidates' closing statements. Mr. Carvalho will go first with his closing statement.
Thank you. I want to begin by thanking the Fall River Herald News and the Fall River School Department for offering this opportunity to debate the issues. We've covered a lot of ground tonight, and while it will be difficult to remember everything that was discussed, some of the questions raised tonight are just as important as some of the answers. Should we be increasing a bond debt that is between $400 and $500 million while we increase the tax burden on our citizens? That sounds to me like a recipe for disaster. We continue to drive people out of Fall River with higher taxes and fees while we keep running up our bills. Maybe that's why our population continues to go down. Should we wait almost 4 years to call for a drug summit? Should we wait till a landfill closes to have a plan on how to deal with it? Should we wait until we have more EPA complaints before we demand accountability in our water department services? For those of you who saw the paper this morning, should we always wait until we have a crisis or a complaint before we take action? Should we talk about attracting businesses to Fall River while we make it more difficult for existing businesses to survive by increasing their taxes and fees? Should we give out TIFs and not demand that Fall River workers and companies be used? These are just a few of the questions all voters should be asking. Is this the way you want your city and your mayor to do business? I believe if we continue this way, we will have nothing and no one left to tax. We can do better. We must do better. The time for autographed sleeves and gold cufflinks is over. It's time for Fall River to go back to its roots, the hardworking blue-collar work ethic that built this city and our nation. It's time to put a regular Joe on the 6th floor and not a politician. Don't forget to vote on November 5th, and I respectfully ask that you vote for Joe Cavallo for mayor. Thank you, and God bless America, and God bless Fall River.
Thank you, Mr. Cavallo. Mr. Flanagan, your closing remarks.
Thank you, Aaron. This debate has lasted for approximately 90 minutes. And in that 90-minute time period, I haven't heard one new idea or one new solution to our current problems from my opponent. All I've heard so far is finger pointing or type of shirts I wear. No way is that going to help the people of the city. It's not going to help correct the current issues that our city is being faced with. Now, I'm very proud to be able to serve this city and its people as its mayor. And each day that I serve this community, I always give it my best. When my eyes open until they close, I always try my best to move the city forward. And no one person can do it alone. It takes a community of people coming together to make a difference. It takes a community to make a difference in the economy. It takes a community to make a difference in public safety. It takes a community to make a difference in education. And there are some real issues facing our city. That's why we serve. We serve to make a difference in this city and to actually leave it in a better condition for our children and our grandchildren. And I serve to help that person who's recently become unemployed or that person who's been underemployed. I serve to make a difference in that child who can't read by the 3rd grade or that child who's considering right now to drop out of high school. I serve to make a difference in public safety, to be an advocate for that person who's been recently victimized or that person we talked about who's in fear of walking our city streets. And that's why I serve. I don't serve to have my name in a headline. I don't serve to have my photograph in the Herald News or to be on the WSAR news station. That's not why I serve. I serve because I care about this community, I care about its people, and I serve because I want to make a difference in the city of Fall River. Thank you, and God bless.
Thank you, Mr. Flanagan. And I'd like to thank Mayor Will Flanagan and Mr. Joe Carvalho for their spirited and substantive debate tonight. I hope it's offered voters a good opportunity to compare the candidates, and I'd also like to thank Fall River Public Schools and Kuss Middle School for hosting our debate tonight, along with the previous school committee candidates forum. A big thanks also go out to our friends at FRC-TV and FRG-TV for recording and airing this debate for our viewers at home. On behalf of everyone here at the Herald News, thank you and have a good night.